So this is where I write most of the songs, and if I sort of have an experience in life that I find inspires me, then I normally will write down some words or some ideas. I've got this little book that I carry around, which is just full of lyrics and little chord sequences and melodies and things like that. When I finished promoting the first album, I had this book full of ideas of songs that I wanted to write, and I found this camper van to be a brilliant place to do that. So I just come in here, use this £15 guitar from down the Cowley Road, and just sort of get in the zone, really. Beachcomber's Windowsill was written over a much longer period. It was written over 5 or 6 years.
We worked on them over an interval. There would be months in between each song, but this time it was much more condensed, and we were much more sort of immersed in the process of getting stuck into each individual song.
The only real difference is that on the second album, and in particular, Rob and Ollie became much more involved with the arranging side of it, and with the arranging of the drum and bass parts and some other bits and bobs as well.
The Beachcomber's Windowsill is like a collection of little trinkets that you might find on the seashore. These are like experiments that we did. Tales from Terra Firma, I see that as much more of a kind of concentrated piece of like conviction, and it's got direction, and hopefully we tell some like mature stories and mature emotions and reflections on stuff that happens to people. We had a lot more time and a lovely cosmic shed to write it in.
I feel it's a much more diverse album, and the arrangement process as well. We all worked much more together, much more collaboratively on this record.
Some of the songs really just seemed to write themselves, and I had that initial feeling, and as soon as I got to work on it, I couldn't stop the song from being written in a way, and it would just keep me awake. I could be in here for pretty much days. I just had this really nice breakthrough where I'd kind of felt like I'd got a chorus, and I really pleased with myself, and it was late, and I was just writing with a head torch because I don't have any electricity for this thing, and I got a knock on the door of the van, and it was my wife, and she sort of basically came to tell me her waters had broken. So it was a case of kind of straight off to hospital, and then that process, the experience of kind of going through childbirth was another incredibly intense one, and led on to more songwriting. But an example of one of these songs which just kind of really totally consumed me was You Take Me As I Am, which is a song about my wedding in Pembrokeshire in West Wales.
The birds revolved around us as the sea swallowed our vows. And after we were married, we went to our white stone cottage, and you took your simple dress off, and your tears fell in my eyes as we were over.
I first got contacted by Stornoway by their manager, who gave me a call completely out of the blue one day and said, got this band, Stornoway, who are looking for somebody to mix their album.
One of the first sort of conversations we had with George was about how terrible we were at recording anything.
Mulling this over, I very cheekily rang up Brian and said, would you mind if I just come and see what you do in your garage in Oxford and find out how things are recorded and give some advice? You get a sense of the acoustic of a place when you walk in, and it was pretty horrible because it was just a little garage with some bits of carpet stuck to the walls.
I had a demo which for some reason had the title of Silent Book.
He kind of just writes nonsense lyrics, same as me. When we come up with a nice piece of music and we want to put a vocal on it, we are not excellent lyric writers like Brian, so Silent Book was just a nonsense lyric somewhere in the chorus.
John writes songs in quite a different way to me. Often he just write a riff or a verse or something and send it to me kind of clearly as an incomplete song.
In the back of my mind, it sounded a bit like a Nelly Furtado song, actually, so I was a bit worried about whether it would ever come to anything.
He had this kind of monk bit where there was lots of chanting and drones. When he brought it to us, we struggled to kind of match his demo with the way we played.
Silent Book was a really atmospheric demo and instantly stood out to me when I heard it, and it kind of transported me back to some hiking that I'd done in the Appalachian Mountains in North America.
Through the lakes and the pines, with my nose and my ears and my eyes.
And so I just took his demo and basically fit my words into it and wrote a chorus, and it became Farewell Appalachia. And with the warm sun on my shoulders, and with the river rushing down.
When it came to recording this in the church, it's the oldest building in Oxford, as far as I know, and yeah, it was very cold in there because it was the middle of winter. But we felt like that was a perfect atmosphere.
So it had this huge natural reverb, and yeah, there was background noise of bin men taking out the trash at the end of the night, and drunk people shouting. So.
The song is kind of based around a series of different odd bits of percussion, because when I'm doing demos at home, I need to just start with something unusual, otherwise I can't sort of get inspired to complete it or work in it or anything. So some of the stuff I had in there was like a sound of a squeaky floorboard and a straw and some keys.
Rather than a drum kit, he'd kind of built up this percussion loop using funny sounds like rattling his house keys and, I don't know, clunking his kitchen tap or something.
That was something that sort of appealed to Brian, although we totally changed all the sounds so they weren't kind of so domestic and they were more suggestive of the outdoors. So something like, we had a sawing piece of wood and some crisps.
There's all this enormous amount of percussion and hilarious sort of things of crisp packets being crushed, and I think, most other artists might find a sample of a crunchy sound or something and then trigger it every beat, but not Stornoway. They've clearly sat there with a packet of crisps for the whole length of the song, which is this sound.
I'm Adam Briggs and I'm Brian's brother, and I'm a doctor here working at the John Radcliffe Hospital. And with Stornoway, I've been playing with them for quite a few years now, and on the recordings it's mainly trumpet and bits of percussion, and then on the live shows it's whatever I'm told to play basically, and it's kind of filling in for all the other hundreds of instruments that the guys have recorded over the last few months on the album.
Ollie turned out to be a real kind of dab hand on the clarinet. We didn't realise he had it up his sleeve.
Even before the recording started, I had mentioned that I'd quite like to have a hand at producing the other side of the music, the visual side of it, and what people see, and compiling the whole thing together. I didn't really think of outside influences. All of these individual images and the whole look of it is a tale, and it's telling a story.
The album itself is not terribly cheerful. It's actually, it's pensive and moody in places, and certainly mysterious and kind of dark itself. And so that was really important to me, to have the visuals emphasize that element, which felt like the core of the album, it being so mysterious. This image of the bed, that was something that Brian had from the get-go. It was in fact the first image, and it's kind of what inspired everything else. This idea of something totally domestic in a very wild setting on a stormy sea.
And then one day the moon as the O is partly I mean, this came afterwards. I just thought, oh, there should be a moon if we are going to cast, you know, if we are going to have shadows, there should be a source of light. And so just quickly created this moon, and then there was a decision whether we should have it, you know, covering the O. And it does kind of help because now people never get our name wrong. The video for Knock Me on the Head the idea was, it's based on the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. And so we had each of us playing a specific role in that story, a modernised version of the story. And Brian was a weatherman, and behind him you'll see a large map, specifically pointing out Oxford and Stornoway. Yeah, and again, Kiri did the sketching of this, and we sort of, you know, looked at various weather maps, but really came round to our own kind of look, I think, and similar to the album artwork.
And so I did just do a very rough outline and then played with the topographical elements, using gradients, using different colors, and then making the ocean almost indistinguishable from the land itself.
So this is the organ part from the bigger picture, which was the first thing I worked on with the guys. They came round here with this organ part, and we put it through a computer organ, a pretend one in the computer, and I sent it through my Leslie speaker. This singularly unimpressive wooden box here is the Leslie speaker itself. You know, it's a big old bit of oak, and there are two parts to it. There's a trebly bit in the top that rotates at one speed, and then a big bass bit in the bottom that rotates at a slightly different speed. And that's what gives you the magic, the fact that it's moving around in space.
So it kind of sounds like a very simple, pure pop song, and in some ways it is. It was very easy to write. It seemed another song that seemed to write itself over the course of just a couple of days. But I felt like I had a lot to write about.
It was only a few months ago, after the bigger picture was recorded and written and finished, that I read some notes that Brian had written and found out that it was partly inspired by the tragic loss that I'd experienced of a friend of mine a couple of years ago, and the song just, you know, explaining that you take a step back and it's part of a healing process of dealing with things like that. And I think the song is great in doing that, both in the lyrics but also in the sound of it. It's quite a cheery jaunt, basically, and yeah, it's a good reflection on loss.
I mean, another big influence on this song was Teenage Fan Club, and they're a band that have a lot of kind of, I don't know, fuzzy summeriness to them, and especially in the way that they sing together. I actually tried to emulate that a bit, not so much through harmonies, but through double tracking my own voice on this song. So what you hear is not just one Brian, but two.
Less clamping down upon a sunset, no less tightly than your heart was being strung.
John had the idea of using a mandolin for this song. It's got that real kind of, I don't know, freshness to the sound, and you can imagine the sound of Maggie May or R.E.M. Losing My Religion.
In the bigger picture, there's a thread 13 times thinner. In the bigger picture, there's a lid 14 times tighter. In the bigger picture, there's a knife 15 times darker. A little hold you like no other. In the bigger picture.
So that's the bigger picture.
Our whole ethic, in a way, is sort of do it yourself, because it's part of the fun, really. It's not really knowing what you're doing.
We'd sort of realised that we actually loved working, you know, in our own way and using our own means, just so that we had the opportunity to try lots of different instruments out and try different arrangements out.
I think it's just important not to always get too bogged down in technical stuff. So that's why we recorded on an 8-track.
It's very slow and old.
I think most people closed their MySpace accounts by now, but when it was first going, I used to search out bands on there, and I must have found Stornoway, tripped over them somehow, and sent them a message, probably saying, if you ever need a producer, give me a call, kind of thing, you know. And I've got this charming reply, I think it's from John in the band, saying, oh, thanks very much, we're thrilled, you know, we really love what you did with Teenage Fan Club, and one day we hope to work in a proper studio. So I'm not sure they yet have.
This is the barn where we recorded November Song. I wrote it around the time when, just before my grandmother died, and she was an influence. And the other kind of character in the story is my, well, in those days, my future wife.
We tried to search for the barn with the most clattery roof, and this was the best we could find.
We wanted somewhere that you could hear the reflection of the guitar and the voice off the walls of the barn as well. And actually the sound of the wind and the barn and really hearing the actual location of the recording, I think we felt that sort of gave it that depth and that atmosphere and the kind of sense of place that hopefully allows the listener to kind of get really absorbed in it and just feel like they could imagine, you know, the story and the place. But
the corrugated iron was the accompaniment to the song, blowing.
It could have been cows.
It could have been cows. Could have been a farmer with a gun.
I'm with my nose like a fox and my skin like a chicken. I steal into bed where it's warm as an oven, and you feel like the bread made in my mother's kitchen, and we're peaceful as a candle. And the clock on my wall, sometimes I hear it in my dreams, but I won't be afraid of the changes a-coming, while I know a love that won't break with the dawn. No, I won't be afraid of the darkness a-coming. No, I won't be afraid of the darkness a-coming, while